Hi, I'm Warren. Welcome back to this intro to Power Query. As I mentioned in the previous video, in this video I want to show you how you can pull all files in a folder. So instead of linking to January, putting it in, then linking to February, when March comes you don't want to have to manually go and get March, you want it to automatically pull March through. So I've opened a new Excel workbook here that I'm going to use for this example, but I just want to show you, here we have our shared folder and you will have access to all these files. I'll put a link in the comments below. We had our initial sales data folder that had January and February, which we linked to individually. I've now created a new folder called Sales Data Folder Import. So what we want to be able to do is go straight in here and pull any files that are in this folder. So at the end of the month, the new month's data gets dropped in here and we automatically get it added to our Power Query model. The one thing I will say is that to make life easier, there are some formatting items that I normally do to the data that is being dumped in these folders. So in the previous data set, we had 2 rows of headings at the top. I would recommend that you just have your column headings and the data. You don't have any other rows above it. You can do it with additional rows, it just makes it way more complicated. And I also recommend, this used to say Sales January as the tab heading. Keep this tab heading the same in all of your files. So if we go to February, you can see February sales, there's the header and the data, there's not additional stuff above there, and it's also called sales. But you can see the format of the data is the same as we did before, it's got all the same issues. We're just going to pull it all through in one go instead of pulling the files one by one. So I'm going to close these. Here's the workbook I'm going to work from. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go and get our data. We're going to go from folder. We're going to choose the folder we want to import all the files from, and we're going to click open. And we are going to click combine. We're going to combine and load the data. Let's go combine and transform so we can see if we want to make any other changes to it. Click on sales, you can see it's looking at the first file. It doesn't look bad. We've got all of our info there. We can go to the January file, click on sales, and it looks fine. So I'm going to click on OK. And there we can see we have a whole bunch of data. It tells us the source. It's done all the steps to get the files in. You can see February sales, January sales. We have all of our data in one table here. So again, I'm going to quickly go through the transformations we did in the previous videos, just to be able to show you the finished result of this data. I won't merge the salesperson record, but everything will be identical to what we've done. I just want to show you how it works when we add additional months. So for starters, I'm going to remove the source name. I want to take out all the nulls. I'm going to go through quite quickly. I just want to sort by the transaction ID. So you can click on that. You can go home, you can click on sort, because I want to see it sequentially here. We have the issue with the duplicates there. So first step, we want to go remove duplicates. We have null records here that we want to remove, null. We've got our date, our quantity, our price, and our product category. I'm going to just add one column to calculate the total sale. So we're going to add a column, custom column. And I'm going to call it total sale. Total sales. We know that it's quantity multiplied by price. adding those columns there. I'm going to make it a decimal by changing the type. So we've got decimal number, or we can actually make it a currency. Let's do that. Change type to currency. Do I want to replace or add a new step? I don't want to go from decimal to step. I'm just going to replace the decimal with the currency. So there we have our data. I'm not going to worry about splitting the names or anything like that. That we did in the previous videos. And I'm going to go home and I'm going to close and load. So Power Query builds the connections, does everything, it loads there. So here you can see we have our January and February data. Now, in the following months, files will be added to that folder and they should be pulled through here, and we should have the total sale and any formatting that we've done. In other words, removing duplicate records, blank records, etc. So if we go back to our shared folder, I've got a folder here called March Data. And in that, I've got March Sales. And just to show you what that looks like, again, I've gone, the transaction ID is sequential. I've got a duplicate ID there for these duplicate records. I've got some blank records. I've got a whole bunch of issues like we've seen up until now in the file. And now when we tell Power Query to look at a folder, it will actually look through the subfolders too. So I don't even need to take the file out of here. I can actually copy this entire folder into this folder import. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I'm just going to show you that within a subfolder, there is March Sales. So you wouldn't really want to set it up that way, but I'm going to show you that it'll work anyway. It should just have the March data dumped at this level. But if we now go and we can say that, a month end has come and gone and the data gets refreshed, there you can see we have the March data. Alma Smith had 2 records. The duplicate has been removed. As you can see, there's 19 to 20. There's no 19 record and there's no 17 record because it was a null. So automatically, whatever is dumped in that folder will automatically get formatted and pulled through to our final data set. So that wraps up the Excel part of it. In the next video, I'm going to show you, say you were doing all your analysis in Excel, you used Power Query to format all your data, and your boss comes to you and says, you know what, we're moving across to Power BI. You're not going to need to, although you could go and do all of these exact things in the Power Query in the back end of Power BI. To avoid having to duplicate your work, you can actually copy all of your steps from your Excel Power Query into Power BI Power Query. So I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video. Okay, thank you very much. Cheers.